Rule 6, pitching. Let's start with the feet. Prior to the pitch, the pitcher shall have the pivot foot in contact with the pitcher's plate. The non-pivot foot shall be in contact with or behind the pitching plate. Any step back with the non-pivot foot must begin before the start of the pitch. During the delivery, the pitcher shall take exactly one step forward toward home plate and land within or partially within the 24-inch length of the plate. All of these diagrams show legal ways that the pitcher may set herself up on the pitching plate. These are two illegal ways the pitcher would set up on the pitching plates. On the left, no foot is touching the pitching plate. On the right, one foot is completely and totally outside the 24-inch pitching plate. The replant, or as it's often known as, the crow hop. Watch for the pivot foot sliding completely off the front of the pitching plate. Watch for the pivot foot sliding completely in front of the pitching plate before the pitch begins. That would be the beginning of a crow hop or a replant. As we continue with the feet, the pivot foot must remain in contact with or push and drag away from the pitcher's plate or be airborne prior to the non-pivot foot touching the ground. The pitcher may leap from the pitcher's plate, land with the non-pivot foot, and with a continuous motion deliver the ball to the batter. In other words, the act of leaping is legal. But replanting and bearing weight is not legal. The pitcher on the left does not seem to be bearing weight. She seems to be pushing, and the side of her foot is in contact with the ground. The pitcher on the right, though, has pushed ahead and has weight on her pivot foot that in USSSA would be considered illegal. USSSA 6E3 Note 2 says, in part, once having lost contact with the pitcher's plate, the pivot foot may not bear weight again until the pitch is released. USSSA is very clear about their expectations. So, as mentioned in a previous slide, the picture on the left is the pivot foot bearing weight. I don't believe so. On the right is pivot foot bearing weight. Yes, it is bearing weight. What softball umpires of Maryland have emphasized is that if one is to bear weight, there must be a clear second push for it to be an illegal pitch. So simply bearing weight unto itself would not constitute an illegal pitch. A clear second push would. We also need to be aware if the pitcher is either in or outside of the 24-inch width of the pitching plate. The stride foot cannot completely land outside of the 24-inch pitching plate. So, with the dotted lines indicating the width of the plate, the stride foot is within the 24 inches. On the right, it's close, and yet it's still in. We do not see drawn lines. There are no drawn lines as there might be in an NCAA game. So we have to be extremely sure that there has been a step outside of the 24-inch width before we would call it. If it is extremely close, you really have to ask yourself, are you sure? But if you are sure, then you must call it. Call it when you're sure. Don't let it happen and just ignore it. Call it when you're sure. The most frequent illegal pitching problem that we have is the hands. either coming on to the pitching plate with the hands already together or bringing the hands together too quickly. The sequence needs to be: pitcher can take the signal from the catcher or coach on or off the pitching plate, or they can take no signal. Then they are to step onto the pitching plate with their hands completely separated. The ball can be in the glove or the hand. The pitcher does not have to present the ball. While standing on the pitching plate with the hands continuing to be separated, they shall take or simulate take a sign from the catcher. That is the pause that we're looking for. The hands then come together, not more than 10 seconds, separate, and a pitch begins. A pitcher can legally stop the pitch by removing himself from their position as follows. They may legally step back off the plate before the hands come together. They may legally step back off the plate with the hands together as long as no part of the wind-up motion has begun. But once the pitcher steps on illegally, it cannot be undone by stepping back off the plate. The SUM guidelines about calling illegal pitches are as follows. Illegal pitches should be called at all age groups, all divisions, 18, 16, 14, 12, and 10. Illegal pitches should be called. And this is inclusive to all divisions, whether they're opens, Bs, or Cs. At the lower age divisions, as a general rule, procedural illegal pitches should be called. They should not be ignored. We need to inform the coach. There is a possibility of being a little more lenient and 10C, but we cannot simply ignore illegal pitches. This includes hands together too soon, the double touch, licking fingers, then directly going to the ball, stepping back once the hands separate. If you are asked to explain, go to the coach, not the pitcher. So a coach probably would want an explanation. Explain to the coach what the problem is, but do not go directly to the pitcher without going to the coach. Here is how you should call the illegal pitch. The plate and the base umpire have slightly different responsibilities. The plate umpire primarily is responsible for the hands coming together too soon, for no pause, the double touch, applying moisture or substances on the ball, stepping outside the 24-inch plate or a sidearm throw. A base umpire is primarily responsible for the pivot foot coming off the pitching plate and replants. But both umpires may call any illegal pitch. Now, some illegal pitches are an automatic dead ball. When the pitcher deliberately drops, rolls, or bounces the ball in order to prevent the batter from hitting it. A pitcher doesn't wipe their hand or fingers off after licking them. A drying agent or dirt may be used and does not have to be wiped off before contacting the ball. The pitcher grinds the ball into the dirt or takes a handful of dirt and grinds it into the ball. That is defacing. Pitcher shall not wear any item on the hand, wrist, arm, or thigh that the umpire judges to be distracting. That's preventive umpiring. If you see something like that on the arm, a neon armband, etc., preventive umpiring would be, no, you may not do this. You need to remove it before play begins. The penalty for all of the above is an immediate dead ball. That's an illegal pitch. A ball is awarded to the batter. When an illegal pitch is pitched, make sure it happened. In other words, be confident about your call. Say the word illegal loud enough so the nearest fielder or batter can hear it. Extend your left arm. That's the delayed dead ball signal. If the ball is put into play, leave the arm out for just a moment and then drop it. Do not leave it out for the duration of the play. If the batter runner achieves first base and all other runners advance one base, the illegal pitch is negated. When an illegal pitch is pitched continued, if the batter runner does not achieve first, or all runners do not advance one base, or if the ball simply is not put into play, we say dead ball at the end of playing action. We look at the head offensive coach, which is often at third, not always, but often at third, and we say, Coach, we have an illegal pitch. You can either take the play, whatever that play was, the ball, the strike, whatever happened on that play, or the penalty, which is a ball to the batter. Which would you like? After the end of the award, we should look toward the defensive coach. Does she or he need an explanation? Maybe they do, or maybe they know exactly what happened and they don't need a further explanation. This video will show an illegal pitch. There is no pause with the hands separated. There's no simulation of taking a sign from the catcher. So watch the pitcher. She's looking at her bench to receive a signal, which is fine. But when she steps onto the pitching plate, she automatically puts her hands together. That is an illegal pitch. This video will show a legal pitch. There is a small pause, but there is a pause. This would be legal. Pitcher looks at her armband, steps on, waits a moment, and then puts her hands together. That is legal. This video will show that immediate hands coming together. This is an illegal pitch. This needs to be called every single time. So once again, pitcher waits, steps on, automatically puts her hands together and pitches. That is an illegal pitch. The umpire's left arm should be out, signaling a delayed dead ball. So let's look at a few more videos and ask ourselves whether these are legal or illegal pitches. Remember that once the hands separate, the pitch must begin. They cannot come back together again. So in this scenario, this is an illegal pitch because the hands separated and then went back into the glove again. Does this pitcher look legal or illegal to you? She looks legal. Everything she is doing is legal. Remember that the pitcher cannot land completely outside of the 24-inch width of the pitcher's plate. So, I believe that was an illegal pitch. She's far outside of the 24 inches. The umpire should be calling illegal pitch. As we look at this, I believe that the pitcher is legal and would be happy to see this pitcher all day long. She stops, she looks, she brings her hands together, she steps, and she pitches what looks like as a strike to me, but the umpire obviously feels differently. Same scenario though, pitcher comes to the pitching plate, stands, hands apart, looks at the catcher, puts her hands together, and once again pitches a legal pitch. Lastly, is this pitcher satisfying the legal requirements to have a legal pitch. She approaches the pitching plate, hands apart, and automatically puts her hands together. That is an illegal pitch and needs to be called each and every time.